Are you here?
Okay, Ms. Robin, you have just met quorum. I believe
Okay.
that Kathy just joined us and that would put us there. Um, okay, yeah, you can kick off when you are ready.
Okay, so let's call the meeting to order. Thank you. And it looks like we have the land acknowledgement by Roger. Are you here, Roger? I thought I saw you in there.
I am. I'm having trouble getting unmuted.
No
Sorry.
worries.
Sorry about that. No. Um, the HPRS Advisory Council would like to acknowledge that we gather today on the traditional lands of the Dena'ina Athabascans. For thousands of years, the Dena'ina have been and continue to be the stewards of this land. It is with gratefulness and respect that we recognize the contributions, innovations, and contemporary perspective of the Upper Cook Inlet Dena'ina.
Thank you. I don't know if anybody had raised their hand to do a mission moment, because I have a TBD on my agenda here, but is there anybody that has a mission moment that they would like to share?
You know, this is Roger. I got one.
Great.
I was just recently touched by the story on True North Recovery joining with the mayor's team. And I've been an advocate for homelessness, for mental health services for going on 40 years now. And we have long tried to, the Crisis Now model, getting it brought into Anchorage has been a long and arduous process. And this partnership with True North really has brought that full circle for me. And I just really appreciate the direction we're headed into and the getting it done that we're getting done. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Does anybody else want to share anything? Any other mission moments people want to share? Farina.
I would like to share that our partners at Catholic Social Services, so just to back up, I think most of the group knows that we are actively providing outreach to the campers at Davis and Snow Dump. Last week, we had the opportunity to have about 17 beds in our non congregate shelter come open, and we really wanted to focus our outreach efforts on our largest encampments and those that are going to be on deck for an abatement in early summer. We had a lot of people kind of come to the table and say, come to the table, come to the parking lot and say, yes, I'm ready to go inside. And there was a collaborative effort of the actual boots on the ground staff from the coalition, Henning, as well as Restorative Reentry to say, how do we come together, partner, run their names through the HMIS system, and our Hope team connecting people. During that time, Jesse from Catholic Social Services, who is the shelter manager at CSS, happened to be driving by and said, hey, what's going on? Do you guys need any help? He was at the right place at the right time and was able to transport 3 clients to non-congregate shelter that might have otherwise walked away, because we know folks get a little bit impatient. And if we don't have our ducks in order when we ask them to do something and they're ready, then we lose them. So I want to share that with you, Robin, that it was really meaningful for the people that were there, boots on the ground, and for the folks that actually got to go into shelter, that he just stepped in a real Superman moment to get those people moved along into somewhere safe and stable with kind of a high five and a gold star, no fuss, no muss. And that really meant a lot to everyone there and to those individuals who I believe are still in our shelter system. So thank you. And I wanted to make sure that I share that with you, Robin.
I so appreciate that. Sometimes I think Jesse is like this service whisperer. He just always manages to be at in the right place at the right time. And he's just got such an enormous heart. So thank you. I appreciate that. And I will share that with Jesse as well. Okay, so I have one quick question here. I just want to make sure that the agenda we have for today is correct, because it says that we are going to make changes and approve the April meeting agenda. I think that probably should say May, and that we're going to be.
Typo, it was a typo. My
Yeah,
apologies.
No
No,
worries.
for the record, we will make sure that is corrected, but that should read May meeting agenda changes and approval, and then April meeting minutes approval. So our apologies on that.
Great. Okay, so before we take a motion here, are there any changes or anything that we need to talk about for this particular agenda? Okay, I'm not hearing any.
It's the first step to ask if they have these symptoms.
Sorry, I think somebody might need to put their audio on mute. Okay, so has everybody had a chance to review the the April meeting minutes?
Yeah, I would like to move to approve the consent agenda.
Great. For a second?
Roger, second.
Thank you, Roger. Okay, and then the April meeting minutes. If there's no changes or edits to those, can I have a motion to approve the April meeting minutes?
I'll just say as a point of order here that if the consent agenda includes both of those items, so just a motion to approve the consent agenda.
We'll do the whole
covers both.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Then we are done with that. Okay. So we have a special presentation today by Jessica and Kim. So I'll let you guys take it away.
Thanks, Robin. And actually, Daniel is going to play the role of Kim today. And I'm going to let Daniel do his piece first, and then I will pop in. I just have one piece that I'm sharing at the end, which is the responses to the survey that we added, the survey question that we added to the point in time count this year for the unsheltered individuals. So I will let Daniel do their part first.
Thank you, Jessica. I am Daniel Hanna. I am HMIS manager here at ICA, and I have a slideshow. Am I able to share my screen?
You should be.
Excellent. All right. Am I showing?
Yes, you are.
Excellent.
It is in a view mode where you have, yep, there you go. Perfect. Now it's in perfect mode.
Okay, so this is going to be pretty short. We've gotten all of our submissions in from all of our partners across the city, and we've been able to do some aggregation and some data cleanup, and we're not completely finished with all that, and I'll get to that in a second. But without any further ado, our 2025 point in time and housing inventory count. So this is just a note. These numbers are not finalized. They're pretty close. They're within striking distance, but there are processes that still need to be completed. WellSky is still working on a couple things on their end. Some things with the HIC export that's not quite as it should be, and then some data flags that we'll need to review as well. So the slides that have numbers on them have all been watermarked with drafts. So please don't screenshot them. They are not they're not ready for the public yet. But at least you know, we can have an idea you know, here on the board what our numbers look like for this year. Just a little bit of background information. So the housing inventory count is the inventory that we collect every year on the night of the pit. It's beds and units that are dedicated to persons experiencing homelessness. So they have to be specifically dedicated to count for HIC, and it's collected this year. It was collected on January 27th. And HIC includes emergency shelter, transitional housing, rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing, and then other permanent housing as well. Here's our high level snapshot for this year. We had 2,746 total beds within Anchorage, 2,500 individuals using those beds, as well as unsheltered. And then our utilization rate is 91%, which is pretty much on par with where we were last year. You can see here we have a bit of a breakout based on project type. Most of our beds are within our emergency shelter, with the next largest category being permanent supportive housing. And as you can see, in terms of permanent housing beds, we're making use of pretty much all of them. And now for point in time. Point in time is the other side of this coin. This is the count of individuals, clients that were served on the night of the pit. So January 27th, all shelters, all transitional housing, and then of course we had Project Homeless Connect. We had individuals going out and interviewing unsheltered clients in order to try and get an accurate count of how many individuals experiencing homelessness in our city on this night. So just a quick snapshot here. Total number of persons counted was 1,692. The difference between this number and the number reported in HIC is that HIC includes permanent housing. This does not include permanent housing. So 1,290 sheltered persons, so people in emergency shelter or transitional housing. In other states, it also includes safe havens. We don't have any safe havens here. And then 402 unsheltered people. And then by project type, you can see the lion's share here, 64% were in shelter, but nearly a quarter were unsheltered. And just a few demographics here: 81 families, 180 youth or TAY. So this would be include minors, and then also that 18 to 25 transitional age youth category. 72 veterans and our and 520 clients experiencing chronic homelessness. Just a little bit of comparison from last year. We're still working on HIC comparisons by project type, but at least in terms of sheltered and unsheltered counts. We've experienced an uptick in unsheltered counts this year. 16% more were not in shelter, and we had a custom question on the unsheltered interview form this year, asking individuals, why did you choose not to go into shelter tonight? And ACEH is parsing through that data. A small drop in emergency shelter, and then we had a drop in transitional housing as well. But our numbers in terms of how many people in shelter and unsheltered hasn't really changed much. A difference of 1%. So not a big change there. Just to reiterate, these numbers are not finalized. We shouldn't be making them public until we are able to go through all the data flags, submit to HUD. Once these numbers are submitted to HUD, then we'll be able to publish them for everybody to see. And that is all I have. Back to Jessica.
Thanks, Daniel. mine is not a slide, but I do have, let's see if it'll let me share. All right. So this is the data from that additional question that Daniel was talking about. So as part of the point in time count survey that is given to people who are unsheltered. So if you haven't been involved in our point in time count in the past, the way we do that is we have a huge group of people that we divide up into teams, we assign zip codes, and they go out and comb through those zip codes and survey people that they find. And as part of that survey, we're able to add a custom question if we want to. So last year, we had a lot of conversations about what custom question we wanted to ask. Last year, the custom question that we asked about the cause of that person's homelessness. So what was the reason why they became homeless in that particular instance? And overwhelmingly, not surprising to the people in this group, I'm sure, the answer to that question was the affordability of their housing. They could no longer afford their housing, or they could not find housing that was affordable, and they were losing their housing due to eviction, due to family issues, due to the property being sold. So housing affordability was the #1 answer last year. So this year, we wanted to shift that question a little bit and see if we could get some information that could help inform how we develop shelter in our community. So we wanted to ask people, why are you outside? Why did you spend the night outside? Why were you not in shelter? And so people had a list of things that were options they could answer. They could answer more than one. So if there was more than one reason why they had not gone to shelter, you could check as many or as few of those answers as applied to you. We had I'm going to try to remember it. Daniel might know it off the top of his head. Over 240 people responded to that. So out of those 400 people who were unsheltered that night, over half of them answered this question. The #1 answer with 27% of all of the responses was that there weren't any beds available. So the reason why they didn't spend that night in shelter was because the shelters were full. So that is the answer of lack of available beds or on the wait list. Some people answered that they were on the shelter wait list. If they were on the wait list, there was no bed available for them, and that's why they weren't there. The next highest answer was safety concerns at shelter. A lot of people had that as a reason why they did not want to go to shelter. Next was that it was a personal preference to stay outdoors or in another location. The next answer was that they'd had a negative past experience in a shelter. Not surprising, the next highest question or the next highest answer was that a lack of transportation to the shelters. The walk-in shelter that we have is at 56th Avenue, kind of on South Midtown-ish area. And it's not the easiest to get to if you're walking from downtown or from North Anchorage or East Anchorage. So there not being any kind of reliable free transportation to get to that shelter, I think can be a barrier for a lot of people, as we saw in these responses. Some people answered that they need privacy or personal space. And so a shelter that is a congregate shelter or a shelter where you're sharing a room with another person may not meet their needs. Next, at 6%, people who stated they had a health or a disability related challenge to going to shelter. 5% of people said they didn't know how to get to shelter. That was really good information to get that they didn't know. The next 5% is a grouping I called other. It was so many different things that people had said. There were people who said, I'm on the wait list for housing and I should be getting into housing soon and I don't want to go to shelter. I want to wait where I am. We had a couple people who had answers like, this person is at that shelter and I don't want to go to it. So I grouped those together into other, they didn't really fit in any of these other categories. And then the last, this one shocked me. The last reason, the lowest stated reason, was because their pet or their animal wasn't allowed to go. So we see a lot of people experiencing homelessness that have pets, and that pet can be a barrier to going to shelter because we only have one shelter that is able to accommodate someone with a pet here in Anchorage. But surprisingly, when people were asked, what is the reason? Why did you not go to shelter? Their pet not being allowed to go was not ranking up at the top. So again, as Daniel said, these are still preliminary. If we saw any survey results that needed to be excluded, these could change slightly, but otherwise, I think I'll see these percentages stand as we go through this and the final numbers be fairly close, if not identical to this. So I think this was really enlightening to me, and I'm really looking forward to having more in-depth conversations about what these survey results told us as we talk about shelter.
Thanks, Jessica and Daniel.
You're
That was great. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Mr. Roger,
Go ahead.
I just want to comment that's some really good data and some interesting stuff on the breakouts. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And I just wanted to share one thing. When we talk about utilization, I'm really looking forward to having some more in-depth conversations about that, because what we've seen now for 2 years in a row is a utilization rate that is right around 90% of our shelters and our transitional housing programs. And when we look at people who are unsheltered, and that the #1 response to that survey as to why people spent the night outside that night was because there was no shelter bed available. But then we look at this and we see maybe there was. So I want to have conversations about how we look at shelter utilization in our community, and particularly around how we do things like holding beds, because that's what that is. That shelter, every single shelter probably reported full or very close to full on that particular night of the point in time count. But the point in time count is heads in beds. Who was literally laying in that bed that night? And so if that person had a bed at that shelter but wasn't in it, they don't actually count. And that's where our utilization comes in. So I really want to have those conversations about what our shelter capacity is and what our shelter capacity needs to be if we're accounting for, you know, somewhere around 9 to 10% of our shelter utilization is going to be people who aren't necessarily there every single night. So just wanted to toss that out there as an observation, that I have seen that 2 years in a row. And I think it is worthy of a conversation as we talk about shelters and what our shelter capacity and shelter availability, shelter options are for our community.
This is Taffy. I'm very interested in the conversation around shelter eligibility. And if that is a barrier for people, because I've worked in shelters, as most of you know. And then, you know, hopefully, I think it would be a good conversation to talk about what are the barriers that we have created within those systems and eligibilities that make people not have access to those beds that are available.
Thank you, Taffy. I appreciate that, because I do think when we looked at those survey responses, the number 2 and number 4 reason were a negative experience or a safety issue that they perceived at the shelter that was available to them. And so really wanting to look at stuff like that. And when we talk about low barrier shelter being available, what does that mean? And what barriers exist to people going into shelter, whether they are perceiving it as a barrier or whether it is an actual barrier for them. And I really want to have that conversation with people who are using our shelter system. That's what I think I enjoy the most about administering this survey, because I was out there. And then looking at some of these results is that this is information that comes straight from the people who are using shelter. So that voice of that lived experience and expertise is so important when we talk about our shelter system.
Yeah, thank you. I see a hand up from Zoom. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, sorry. This is Jamie Lopez. So, had some feedback on the topic, if it's permitted. Just from experience, I interact with people all the time that go into the shelter system, whether it's congregate or non-congregate. A lot of times they're stealing in CWS, or you have someone next to you that's loud, and then it becomes an issue of PTSD that's been ramping up either outside or inside that facility. It's just not a very inviting environment. And then, if somebody has pets and say they're close to their pets, if you go into CWS and you bring your pets with you, they separate them and they put them off into a little kennel environment. And so you're not actually around your pet most of the time. There are people with service animals who essentially, they should be around their pets. And then I know one specific instance, they went to Alex Hotel and they got pushed out of there and they tried to put them in CWS, which kind of defeats the purpose of that. Specifically with non-congregate, you had people going into the hotels, they're getting extreme pat downs going in the door. The rules of the hotels, essentially, you're not allowed to go from one room to the other and talk to people that whether or not you get along with them or you don't. You're not allowed to have discussions in the halls. Sometimes the staff members with a job, sometimes the wage being offered, you don't always get the best quality employee. Sometimes they're treating people that are badly. And so if you're a vulnerable person and you're trying to open up and you're going into an environment and it's treated like a prison, and then the food is not good, that's another aspect of this thing. The food was pretty bad. Then some people they have a bad experience. They check out, they walk out the door, and they never come back. And so, if you're looking at your inactive count, 30 to 90 days, or even people that have gone inactive for a long period of time, there is a shadow population that's out there, and you can see it based on those numbers. They don't self-resolve. They've just had such a bad experience that they just don't want to come back. And so some of these things can be, fixed over time. But it's a longer discussion, and people have to want to have it. But yeah, there are barriers, and they can be improved. And so maybe for another time. But yeah, I just thought I'd give some feedback, and maybe I should rename the name. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. I appreciate that. Okay, so I see it's 4:34. So if it's all right, I think we'll move on to the next part of our agenda. We don't have any, do we have to do some kind of a HUD submission approval today, Jessica, or are there some decisions that need to be made?
Yes, so
Okay.
you can either have a vote now that would approve our data to be submitted to HUD, or it would be a special meeting before it's actually submitted, because the submission due date is before our next regularly scheduled meeting. So,
Okay. And I think if you're feeling confident that we're, close, I would definitely suggest that we go ahead and take a vote.
and we will communicate the final numbers if they are different from these numbers to you all before they are submitted as well. But in my conversations with Daniel and Kim, we're not anticipating the numbers to change beyond perhaps 1 or 2 here or there.
Okay. Then I will ask for a motion to approve and submit this data to HUD.
I'll move to approve.
A second, Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay. So moved. So the next item on our agenda are advisory council reports and any follow-up. So are there any committee reports? I know last time we talked about this. So I apologize if we are if people are wanting to report out on these, or if they wanted to do these in writing. So I'll just ask if there are committee reports that want to be delivered from HPRS committee members. Sharon.
Yes, thank you. So I have a report from the data committee. We just met yesterday. We talked quite a bit about data, data sharing, acquiring data from other sources such as the eviction court, from the syndromic surveillance data source that we had presented last month. And so we'll continue to work on that. We also reviewed again the survey instrument that we're hoping to deploy fairly soon, looking at for users of data entry users into AKHMIS rather than end users of the data that come out of AKHMIS. I think that will have to be a different type of survey. And then the other thing we did was we worked on a resolution, and this was something I mentioned last month. Okay, excellent, good. And so this has to do with the relationship between the COC and the AKHMIS advisory board. And so quite confusing because one body has an advisory board and the other has an advisory council. But essentially what this resolution does, and my intent was just to present it today. I'm not sure. There were some issues that we couldn't resolve in the committee meeting because we essentially ran out of time. So I don't think this is ready for approval or voting on today. But because there were still some, as I said, issues that need to be ironed out. But essentially what this would do is say that on behalf of this body or the COC, that we are going to formally designate the AKHMIS advisory board to perform the HMIS oversight function on behalf of our COC. And then then maybe on the next page, right, it goes into some specifics about the nature of that relationship. So a big change would be that the chair of the AKHMIS advisory board would be an ex officio member of this body and, could attend as he or she sees fit, but would be expected to give a sort of update at minimum quarterly. And then in case we need to revise any of our internal documents, our governing documents, we'd have to do that. But then also this requests that the HMIS advisory board, we can't revise their documents. They're a separate body, but this suggests that here are some things we particularly would like. So right now, the advisory board membership is sort of broken down into different categories, and each COC is permitted a minimum of one representative. We would like that to change that to be two, a minimum of two representatives from our continuum of care board, which is this body. And then the last part, 3 and 4, that's where we ran into some, I think, confusion towards the end of our meeting when we ran out of time. Just that that whoever is representing the COC, whoever is representing the COC would be elected into that position by the membership of the advisory council. But then one question that came up was, what exactly is the membership? Is it the people who are on the advisory council? Is it and so defining that, I think that needs a bit of work. And then so I'm presenting this on behalf of our committee. I would suggest perhaps it get referred to the executive committee for further slicing and dicing and discussion of the ramifications of it, such that, as Jessica just mentioned, we would need to change some of our governance documents. So.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Sharon, what would these, can you just high level, how would these changes create more line of sight on data?
Well, it doesn't actually change, I think, in a operational sense, sort of what we're already doing now. Because years ago, the data committee voted to strip away AKHMIS oversight from the purview of our committee. And in fact, if you look at our charter, it does not include anything about AKHMIS oversight. That's already actually being done by the AKHMIS advisory board. This just says that they're going to be doing it on behalf of our COC. So, I mean, I think how does it improve sort of oversight of data? I'm not sure it improves it. I don't think it changes it necessarily, because we would still have people from this advisory council on that advisory board. And in fact, would increase, yes, thank you, Will. It clarifies roles, and it would also actually increase, if we want to use the word accountability, which I don't much care for that word, but it does mean that we have the chair of that body, the AKHMIS advisory board, which has oversight authority, that person will be coming to us and giving a report at least 4 times a year. But that's a thing that we don't currently have.
Thank you for walking me through that.
No.
Jessica, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to share also, kind of in response to Farina's question as well. One thing that has been difficult, and Will called it out there too, in terms of clarifying those roles. The data committee spends a lot of time reviewing things that the AKHMIS advisory board has done and suggests approval and recommends back to the advisory council. And so by creating that kind of direct conduit there, it takes some of that confusion out of the roles and could allow the data committee to have more time and more focus on the data kind of analysis side of things, and how that data drives the decisions that are being made, and less about kind of the governance and oversight of the data collection itself. So I think that that could lead to what you were describing, Farina. I think all of it depends on how some of those roles get defined and how they end up when this is all done, in terms of what that looks like.
I appreciate that additional clarification.
Great. All right, thank you. Are there any other HPRS committee reports? Will?
Yeah, so for the Community Priorities Committee, we've met a couple of times. We are working to address one of the priorities that the council talked about a few months ago, and that is to kind of stand up the body to give voice to those with lived experience. And so we're continuing to work on that and would encourage anyone interested to come join on that. We'll also be jumping into the gap analysis. I'm hoping that we can include that chart that Jessica showed with some of the responses from individuals during the point in time count as kind of a data point for some of the gaps in the system. And also just generally thinking of community priorities, hoping to work with the data committee on kind of looking at and evaluating the anchored home strategic plan and using kind of the data elements to do that moving forward. And we meet every 2 weeks, Monday at 4. It's hybrid. People can join in person at the coalition or over Teams. And the next meeting will be June 2nd. And the following would be June 16th. And so I encourage, if that interests anyone, to please join.
Thanks, Will. All right, are there any other committee reports? I'm not seeing any hands up. Oh, no, we got two. Okay, Laura.
Thank you. So the coordinated entry committee just met a little bit over an hour ago, and we went over our coordinated entry charter, and we have it ready for approval for the HPRS Advisory Council. So we're excited to get that over to everybody to get approved and signed so we can start I guess living by that. And then our meeting structure, we're going to be meeting monthly. And so our next meeting will be in June. We are also doing an evaluation of the coordinated entry system at this time. And we are welcoming anybody who wants to volunteer their time to do that assessment and help us get all of that completed. We're hoping to have a full assessment completed by October to present to the HPRS Advisory Council. And hopefully we'll be able to see what is working, what's not working, put in some ideas or suggestions for improvements or changes, and bring that to this board. So, and then of course, anybody who's interested in joining the coordinated entry committee, please email me and let me know, and I will get you added into all of our meetings.
Great, thanks, Laura. Yeah, I'm excited to see the results of all that. That's fantastic. And then I see Roger, you got your hand up.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. The compliance committee, we've been in a haven't been active while we've been working on the lived experience voice and recreating and getting that going again. But we do anticipate, we have got some governance documents. We do anticipate distributing those with the members that have shown an interest, and we'll be doing a poll for preferred meeting times before the next meeting, and hope to meet before then. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, ACH, do you have government and operations reports?
I can keep it fairly quick here. So just a follow-up from the report last month on the meeting with, or the planned meeting with the HUD Secretary and Senator Sullivan. That meeting did happen at the beginning of this month. It went really well. We were able to make some follow-up connections with some staff from our HUD regional office down in Washington, and are working on some work papers for them to be able to share some ideas back and forth, and then planning for the secretary to be able to come up here to Alaska closer to the end of the summer and be able to talk with everyone here locally about what we're experiencing and what support we could get to help make further progress in addressing homelessness here in Anchorage. The state state legislature wrapped up yesterday. No, today's Thursday, Tuesday. So now we just wait to see what happens with the budget with the governor. If everything makes it through with the governor, we're looking at mostly what's the term? Mostly flat funding. So not substantial cuts to any of our funding for our services, but with cost of living increases, flat funding is essentially a cut. But things could be worse. At the local level, at the assembly meeting earlier this week, there was a contract approved that allocates some funds to ICA for our HMIS contract. That's been in the works for a while now and made it through to the approval process. So that was great to have that happen, to be able to have that support for our HMIS here in Alaska. And then there was an ordinance approved that brings some criminal penalties to public fires. So the coalition has been working with the fire department on what some of those implications for people experiencing homelessness could be, and how we can collaborate on some messaging about fire safety outside, and what people who are camping can do to help minimize the risk to themselves and the surrounding neighborhoods, the surrounding people who are camping with them, to help keep everybody safe throughout fire season. I did also attend the fire town hall that was held, and was really happy to hear, and am happy to share that the outlook for the fire risk for this summer is revised downward. It does not mean there is no risk, and it does not mean that there couldn't be a catastrophic fire. But the conditions are not as bad as they were earlier this year. We did have wetter than normal February and April. So that did help to minimize some of the risk. And it was really good to hear about some of the work that the fire department has been doing with the Department of Forestry and the state fire response, in putting in some fire lines around areas, particularly down Campbell Airstrip Road and through Far North Bicentennial Park. So look forward to sharing more information as we finalize some of that communication and have information to share with people about fire safety in camps.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Jessica? Okay, not seeing any. All right, so why don't we move on to the public questions and comments? Is there anyone that would like to share a comment or a question? If you could raise your hand or put it in the chat, that would be great. Lisa.
Yes, thank you. Let's see. Oh, I don't think my camera's working here for some reason, but I just want to share real quickly that the Alaska Housing Summit dates have been set. It'll be a 2-day summit this year, August 19th and 20th in Anchorage. And it's going to be a little different structure as well, with a call for proposals. So Balance of State put out their email today. I think the Alaska Coalition on Housing and Homelessness put out an email asking for proposals, and we'll do the same just to get proposals. There's a form where proposals can go, and you should be getting that email soon if you didn't already get it from Balance of State. But looking to have more interactive parts to the summit this year is one goal of it. And just hearing from community and service providers on what's working, successes, innovations, things that you're doing really well with, that you want to share with the state as a whole.
Great, thank you. I see Jessica would just put something in the chat for a link, so that's great.
Sorry, I just put the link to that, that call for proposals. It's a Google Doc, maybe. It's a fillable form online, but you will see communication out from us with some more information as well.
Great, thank you. All right. I am not seeing any more hands or questions in the chat. So why don't we move on to good news and community events?
We have another hand up from.
Oh, we do? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, hi, sorry. Yeah, Jamie Lopez back. Couple different things I could talk about. So Davis Park, the Muni's pushing forward the abatement on that. Wish it wasn't happening, because things, there are not designated places for people to go. And obviously, the beds are all full. So it's just more or less, you hit the abatement button and it goes one block east or west, and people are going to have more difficulty getting access to services, as well as the provider is going to have difficulty finding people. And so this comment is more or less directed towards Ms. Brown and the administration to please try and designate places for people to go. Please work on a plan. And then, people need support while they're outside, because there are a lot of people outside, hundreds, and they don't have places to go. And then when you essentially hit the abatement button, induces the cycles of trauma over and over again. And then they have to rebuild, and people steal, and then more homeowners are impacted. And it just seems like the cycle is going over and over and over again, and it's not improving. So please try and consider that. Also, with summer coming, there are going to be more people outside, more people are going to need things, and hopefully there's a plan to discuss how to help the people outside, because right now it seems like there are long-term plans, 10,000 homes in 10 years, remove the regulatory, and then you get people to build, but it doesn't address all the people that are outside right now. The burn ban, if anybody isn't aware of it, that passed the Assembly, AO 2025-61. It's set to take effect June 6th. And so essentially they're going to be going after people with uncontrolled fires, whether or not it's going to work out or not, but you're going to have people that are going to essentially have criminal misdemeanors, and it's going to become more difficult to house them. I would ask that you please use that with restraint, because essentially what's going to end up happening is people are going to get criminal records, and then it's sad. Aside from all that, Davis Park abatement looks like it's waiting for the graduating class of APD on May 30th to take effect, because the manpower involved to take that area, it's going to be large, and it's probably going to be a phased abatement. So all that said, please try and help people. Look for the people first, data next, and that's about all I can say today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamie. All right. I am not seeing any more hands, so if I'm missing somebody, I apologize, but I think we're good to move to the next part of the agenda. Good news and celebrations. Open to the floor. Does anybody have any good news or celebrations that they would like to share?
It's not my event, but I wanted to highlight Lucy Hansen and Paula's event coming up on the 31st. Not that we do need a month to celebrate our existence as Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders and Asian Americans, but we are, Lucy is hosting a Flag Day, which she does every year on the 31st of May. So get up there to Park Strip and enjoy.
Thank you. Anybody else? I will share that we have World Refugee Day coming up, and I am remiss because I'm not sure the dates, but it's definitely happening in June, and I will get that information out. It's a great celebration for anyone who is new to our country, new to Alaska, and those folks that have been, who have resettled here and have been living here for quite some time. It's at our Grow North Farm, which is over in Mountain View. It's a great celebration, so I would really encourage people to come. I'm looking for any other hands. Not seeing any. Okay, so here's our volunteer and advocacy opportunities. So it looks like on Monday, June 2nd, 16th, and 30th, there's the ACH Outreach Kit Assembly. And then on June 10th and 24th are the regular assembly assembly meetings. So I don't know if anybody else has any other advocacy or volunteer opportunities that they want to share.
I would just add that in addition to the regular assembly meeting, the Assembly Committee on Housing and Homelessness meets on the third Wednesday of every month. So Wednesday, June 18th, would be the next meeting of that committee. That committee also has time for public comment at the end of it. That is an opportunity for people to share whatever they want to share. It can be related to the meeting agenda or not, but there's a web page for the committee where they put the agenda and materials, usually the day before or the morning of that meeting. And then the HAND Commission, which is the Housing, Homelessness, and Neighborhood Development Commission, meets on the first Wednesday of every month. And so the next meeting for that is Wednesday, June 4th. That is another opportunity where the public is invited, and there are conversations about not just homeless services, but housing development and neighborhood development, and what strategies the municipality has been using for those initiatives, and the ability to provide that feedback and comment and recommendations around those practices. So just would add those two items when it came to advocacy opportunities coming up the next month.
Great, thanks, Jessica. Okay, I am not seeing any other hands in the air, and we are just a little over time. So with that, I'm going to just say thank you so much to everybody for participating, for being here, and for all that you do in the community. It's so appreciated. And if there's nothing else, then I will ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I would move to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, and have a great rest of your week and a really great Memorial Day weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.